The announcement came out on a Monday, a research fellowship at the Lakeside Medical Center in Milwaukee, the kind of position that determines the next decade of a doctor's career. Two candidates had been in the running for months. The selection committee made its choice and published the result before noon. Dr. Elena Marchetti was named the new research fellow. Her colleague, Dr. Natalie Voss, was not. That same week, Natalie Voss was dead. I'm Danny Cruz, and this is a case that no one in that hospital was allowed to talk about. Before I bring you into the details, if you want more investigative journalism like this, deep dives into the stories that were buried, the documents they didn't want you to see, go ahead and hit subscribe. Drop a comment telling me what you think about this one. I read every one. Let me tell you what the files say. The two doctors had been at Lakeside for roughly the same amount of time. Elena Marchetti was 36, a hospitalist in the internal medicine department. She had graduated at the top of her class from Johns Hopkins, 2 published papers on sepsis protocols, a reputation for being clinical, precise, controlled. Natalie Voss was 34, emergency medicine. She had come to Lakeside 3 years earlier, transferring from a level 1 trauma center in Chicago. She had a different energy, louder in meetings, faster on her feet in a crisis, the kind of doctor nurses called when things went sideways. She had also applied for the research fellowship. She had also wanted it badly. The fellowship was a joint program between Lakeside and the Medical College of Wisconsin. It paid better than a standard attending position. It came with lab access, conference funding, and a clear path toward tenure-track consideration. For a doctor in the early stage of an academic career, it was the kind of opportunity that does not come twice. The selection committee had 3 members. 2 of them voted for Marchetti, 1 dissented. No formal record of the dissenting vote exists in the committee minutes, but a source close to one of the members told investigators that the dissenting vote was cast for Voss. That detail becomes important later. Keep it. The hospital announced the result on Monday, March 11th. Elena Marchetti received an email at 11:47 in the morning. The subject line read, "Fellowship offer. Please confirm receipt." Natalie Voss received no email. She found out through a colleague who forwarded her the announcement before she had been officially notified. By Tuesday, the atmosphere in the department had shifted. Several nurses and residents who were present that day described Marchetti as calm, even buoyant. They described Voss as quiet, quieter than usual, which some people took as a warning sign. Natalie Voss was not someone who was usually quiet. On Tuesday evening, a security guard in the east wing of the hospital logged a door access event at 9:14 p.m. The door in question led to a supply corridor near the hospital's research wing. The access card used belonged to Dr. Natalie Voss. The guard noted the timestamp but did not flag it. Doctors access corridors at odd hours all the time. 31 minutes later, at 9:45 p.m., a different security camera, this one in the underground parking garage, level B2, captured movement near the ventilation shaft access. The camera was pointed at the elevator bank. A figure passed across the frame. The figure was wearing hospital scrubs and a fleece jacket. The timestamp read 9:46 p.m. The camera resolution was not sufficient to identify the person. No one saw Dr. Natalie Voss after 9 p.m. on Tuesday. Her apartment building received no entry log from her key fob that night. Her phone, a Samsung Galaxy S24, went dark at approximately 10:15 p.m., according to cell tower records obtained through a court order. The last cell tower her phone connected to was the one serving the hospital's east wing and the immediately surrounding blocks. Her body was found on Wednesday morning. A maintenance worker for the hospital's environmental services department discovered the remains in a supply closet on the second floor of the east wing. The closet held mops, cleaning solutions, and stacked boxes of sterile gloves. The worker opened the door because she had been called to restock, and because there was an odor she described as wrong. Natalie Voss had been struck with a heavy object. The weapon was later identified as a fire extinguisher that should have been mounted on the wall approximately 6 feet from where her body was found. The mounting bracket was empty. The fire extinguisher was on the floor, 6 inches from her head. She had been killed where she was found. The blood spatter pattern on the closet door indicated she had been facing the shelf units when she was struck. She had not fallen. She had dropped. The medical examiner's initial report, filed on March 14th, listed the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the skull. The manner of death was ruled homicide. The time of death was estimated between 9:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Tuesday, March 12th. The investigation began immediately. Milwaukee Police Department's Major Crimes Unit took the lead, with detectives Tom Blevins and Sarah Okonkwo assigned to the case. Within the first 48 hours, detectives established several facts. Natalie Voss had no known enemies outside the hospital. Her ex-boyfriend, with whom she had ended a relationship 8 months earlier, was interviewed and cleared. He was in Green Bay on Tuesday evening, verified by security footage, credit card transactions, and 2 witnesses. Her family in Madison reported no threats, no unusual contacts, no behavioral changes that would indicate she feared for her safety. At the hospital, the picture was different. Detectives interviewed 31 staff members across the first 2 days. The interviews were recorded, and the transcripts are part of the public record. They paint a consistent picture of a workplace under pressure. The research fellowship decision had created tension in more than one department. Several residents and attendings described the process as politically motivated. One doctor, who asked to remain anonymous, told detectives that the whole fellowship program was designed to reward people who kiss the right asses. That quote does not appear in the official report. It appears in a recording made by a colleague who was in the room and who shared it with investigators. I'll tell you why that matters. The digital trail was where the case began to take shape. Detectives obtained a court order for the phone records of both doctors. Elena Marchetti's phone showed normal activity on Tuesday evening, a text to her husband at 8:22 p.m. confirming she was staying late, a call to her mother at 8:51 p.m. Location data placed her phone in the hospital's west wing until approximately 7:40 p.m., then at her home address from 8:15 p.m. onward. Her home is approximately 14 miles from Lakeside Medical Center. Drive time on a Tuesday night, no traffic, is approximately 22 minutes. Natalie Voss's phone, as I mentioned, went dark at 10:15 p.m. But before that, her last several hours of activity were reconstructed. She had been in the emergency department until just after 7 p.m. She had checked her hospital email at 7:09 p.m., the forwarded announcement about the fellowship. She had opened it. She had not replied. At 7:34 p.m., she sent a text to a friend, Dr. Michael Torres, who worked in the ICU. The text read, "Can you believe they gave it to her? After everything?" Torres replied at 7:41 p.m., "I'm sorry, Nat. We'll talk tomorrow." Voss did not respond. At 8:03 p.m., she swiped her access card to enter the East Wing. This was logged. The East Wing is where the supply closet was located. She had no documented reason to be in that wing after 7 p.m. Her shift had ended at 7 p.m. Her department head confirmed she was off duty as of 7 p.m. At 8:17 p.m., a nurse named Carla Restrepo saw Natalie Voss in the East Wing hallway. Restrepo told detectives she was walking quickly, like she had somewhere to be and didn't want to run into anyone. Voss did not respond when Restrepo called out to her. Then the trail goes quiet for 37 minutes. At 8:54 p.m., the hospital's internal messaging system logged a ping to Natalie Voss's workstation. The message was from an internal extension, 42291. That extension belongs to the Research Wing's supply office. The message content was not logged because the system only recorded that a message had been sent, not its content. The recipient's workstation showed the message was received but never opened. The sender's identity was not automatically logged by the system. Detectives had to pull the server records manually, and they found the sender was a workstation registered to Dr. Elena Marchetti's office. This is the part where the investigation shifted. Detectives brought Elena Marchetti in for a formal interview on Friday, March 15th. The interview lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. Marchetti had a lawyer present. She was not arrested at that time, but she was told she was not free to leave. She was being held for questioning. Under Wisconsin law, that limit is 6 hours before a determination must be made. In the interview, Marchetti denied any involvement in Natalie Voss's death. She stated that she had left the hospital at approximately 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday and driven home. She stated that she had not sent any internal messages to Natalie Voss on Tuesday evening. She stated that she had no knowledge of Voss being in the East Wing that night. When confronted with the server record linking her workstation to the 8:54 p.m. message, Marchetti's lawyer instructed her not to answer that question. The workstation in question was a shared resource. Multiple doctors used it. The hospital's IT department confirmed that access to the workstation was not restricted by individual login. It operated on a shared credential system that had been in place since 2019 as a cost-saving measure. 12 doctors had access. Elena Marchetti was one of them. This was the first significant obstacle in the case. But detectives kept working. They pulled security footage from every camera in the East Wing for the evening of March 12th. 8 cameras covered the wing's corridors and common areas. 2 cameras, the ones that would have captured the supply closet hallway, were found to have had their angles adjusted 2 weeks earlier during a routine maintenance visit. The adjusted angles now pointed at the elevator bank and the main corridor intersection. The supply closet hallway was no longer in frame. The maintenance records showed the adjustments had been authorized by the hospital's facilities director, David Kowalczyk. They were logged as routine recalibration. The work order was dated February 28th. On February 28th, the fellowship decision had not yet been made, but the field of candidates had been narrowed to 2, Marchetti and Voss. This detail became a subject of dispute during the trial. The prosecution argued it was circumstantial evidence of premeditation. The defense argued it was coincidence, a facilities director doing routine work on a schedule that happened to coincide with department politics. There was one piece of footage that was not affected by the adjustment. A camera at the end of the East Wing corridor, outside the main entrance to the research wing, captured 2 people at 8:31 p.m. on March 12th. One was Dr. Natalie Voss. She was walking toward the interior of the wing. Her pace was measured, not rushed. Her hands were at her sides. The other person was Dr. Elena Marchetti. She entered the frame from the opposite direction, walking toward Voss. They met in the middle of the corridor. The footage has no audio. What happened next can only be inferred from body language. They spoke for approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds. At several points, both doctors gestured. At one point, approximately 45 seconds in, Voss stepped back sharply. Marchetti did not advance. Voss then turned and continued walking deeper into the East Wing. Marchetti watched her go, then turned and walked back in the direction she had come. That was the last time either camera or witness placed Elena Marchetti in the East Wing on March 12th. Voss continued into the wing and was next seen by Carla Restrepo at 8:17 p.m. After that, no one saw her alive. The prosecution's theory was straightforward. Marchetti had sent a message to Voss from the shared workstation, knowing it could be traced to her office. She had waited in the East Wing corridor, or returned in time, to intercept Voss. The conversation did not go as she planned. Voss rejected whatever was said. Marchetti followed her. The confrontation happened in the supply closet. The weapon, the fire extinguisher, had been in the hallway outside the supply closet for 14 months. The hospital's maintenance logs showed it had been inspected and recertified on March 1st. Its last inspection tag was still attached. Forensics recovered a partial print from the fire extinguisher's handle. It belonged to neither doctor. It belonged to a third person whose identity was never established. The print was entered into APHIS, the national database, and returned no match. Forensic analysis of Voss's hands showed no defensive wounds. She had not raised her arms. The prosecution argued this meant she had not expected the attack. She had been caught off guard. The defense argued it meant nothing. A sudden blow from behind requires no defense. The prosecution also submitted digital evidence from Marchetti's home computer. Her browser history on the night of March 12th showed a search at 9:03 p.m. for "How long does it take for a body to become odorless?" She had cleared the history after searching, but her internet service provider's logs preserved the timestamp in query. The defense moved to suppress the evidence, arguing it was obtained without a proper warrant. The motion was denied. The judge ruled that the ISP logs were obtained legally through a third-party records request. The search was never satisfactorily explained by the defense. Marchetti was arrested on March 22nd, 11 days after the body was found. She posted bond on March 24th. The bond amount was set at $1.5 million. She made it. Her lawyer filed a motion for a change of venue, arguing that pretrial coverage in Milwaukee made a fair trial impossible in Milwaukee County. The motion was denied. The trial began on September 9th of the following year. The prosecution called 23 witnesses. The defense called 11. The key moment in the trial came on day 4, when the prosecution played the security footage of the two doctors meeting in the East Wing corridor. The courtroom was silent. Everyone could see the body language. Everyone could see Voss step back. Everyone could see Marchetti stand still and watch her go. The prosecution's closing argument focused on the combination of motive, opportunity, and evidence. The fellowship had been the prize. Marchetti had it. Voss did not. The conversation in the corridor was the trigger. Whatever was said there, Voss rejected it and walked away. Marchetti did not let it end there. The defense's closing argument focused on the lack of direct physical evidence. No DNA linking Marchetti to the weapon. No witness to the actual killing. A digital trail that relied on shared credentials. A camera angle that happened to be adjusted weeks earlier. The prosecution had built a house of inference. None of the bricks was certain. The jury deliberated for 6 days. On September 29th, they returned a verdict. Elena Marchetti was found guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. The jury voted 12-0. She was sentenced on December 11th. The judge, Circuit Court Judge Patricia Oates, sentenced her to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence included a mandatory minimum under Wisconsin law for first-degree homicide. There were no mitigating factors accepted. Marchetti showed no emotion when the sentence was read. Her lawyer immediately filed a notice of appeal. The appeal is still in the court system as of this recording. The defense is arguing 2 points. First, that the court should not have allowed the ISP browser history into evidence. Second, that the camera adjustment, combined with the timing, constitutes reasonable doubt, that someone else may have orchestrated the situation to frame Marchetti. Neither argument has yet been ruled upon. There is one other detail worth noting, because it connects to what I keep seeing in cases like this. The hospital's internal review of the fellowship selection process was completed in May, after the arrest. The review found that the selection committee had deviated from the program's own written criteria in 2 documented instances. Both deviations favored the candidate who received the fellowship. The program director was issued a formal warning. No further disciplinary action was taken. That is how institutions protect themselves. A doctor is dead. A doctor is in prison. The institution that created the exact conditions that made both outcomes possible issues a warning and moves on. I have the documents. I'm Danny Cruz. I'll see you in the next one. If this case stayed with you, if you have thoughts about how the investigation unfolded, about what the fellowship process meant for everything that came after, leave it in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more investigations into the cases that were buried, the documents they didn't want you to see, go ahead and subscribe. There's more coming.